set before me, and my grateful spirit sings. Each rising sun tells of thy goodness. The rain proclaims thee in the life it brings. All creation bears thee sure and silent witness, and my grateful spirit sings. The stars that crowd the realms of space reflect the image of thy grace. The rolling seas, the earth and sky declare thy power, thy majesty and might. I see thy hand in man's compassion. Thou art the font of kindness whence it springs. Thy boundless charity hath brought my soul salvation, and my grateful spirit sings. For changeless love and endless mercy, for countless blessings beyond the wealth of kings, for every perfect gift thou sendest, Lord, I praise thee, and my grateful spirit sings.
Amen. Praise the Lord. You know, I sit here and I'm so thankful to be the pastor. These teenagers, I could have never stood up and sung like that. I could have never done that. And just stands up here like a little lady. And the school today had two different groups, ensembles singing. I wish we had time to hear that beautiful harmony in the high school today. It's beautiful. And what a privilege. Now, wait a minute. I know our high school's not perfect. I tell them, they make fun of me because I think it's about the most perfect. And Brother B especially, he's the one that makes fun of you perfect kids all the time. But he teaches there, so he knows they're demons too. But I'll tell you, this is the heyday of my life, my ministry. To have an elementary school and a high school and a college and a church and a bus ministry and all that God's done for us. God's been so good to us. Tonight, I want to remind you as you're taking notes, we're looking at the subject of counsel. Counsel is advice. Counsel is guidance. Write it down tonight as we look at this subject again. Counsel is advice. Counsel is guidance. Counseling is what people think about is something ongoing. A lot of counsel, you don't have to sit down for counsel. And you can find counsel at the door. I'll meet with you. We'll sit down in fellowship. I'm not trying to get out of anything. I just don't want to treat you like nutcases. You can walk with God. And you can get counsel from many sources we saw last week. We'll review it briefly. But you can get counsel. And it doesn't have to go on and talk about, 35 years ago and 75. And I know there's certain issues that we have to deal with. And I know we have to sit down at time. Please. But most of what we're looking for in our life and our churches is to a detriment. It's not a help. Tonight, let's review. We have looked at the importance of counsel. There's safety in counsel. There's wisdom in counsel. I need advice. You need advice. All of us need advice. And there are people that have advice, which led us to our last lesson, not only the importance, but who should counsel? Who should counsel? And I think that your pastor, because he is your shepherd, ought to have some areas in your life where he counsels. But I don't believe in veto power. I don't believe that I ought to have control of every area of your life. That's why God's given you parents too. And thank God for godly parents that love you. And I'll stand on the side of godly parents over my counsel. And if I disagree with the parents, I'll talk to the parents if I feel like, and you'll see it tonight, if I can. If you have a mother and dad, don't come to me for everything. Come to me for some things. And talk to me. And children should talk to their pastor. And teenagers should. What do you think, pastor? But go to your pastor and go to your parents and go to your teachers. And go to Titus chapter 2, aged men and women. People in this church, the Bible calls it the word hoary head or the white hair. Go with people that are godly and have wisdom. Aged women, aged man. I don't have to make every decision. There are people in this church that know about finance. Go to them. Talk to them about mortgages. Talk to them about interest rates. I don't know all that. I don't know how to advise you toward the stock market. I don't even know how to read the page. And I don't plan to learn because I don't have any money to put there. But there are people in this church that could advise you on the stock market. I don't know how. I really don't know how to advise you how to buy a car. Now, I have opinions about it. But there are people that know how to. I certainly don't know how to sell an automobile. There are people that would know that. I can counsel you about child rearing, and I believe I should. But I also believe that some of you younger women ought to go to some of the older women and figure out how to do this thing. Amen. And some of you younger men ought to go to some of the older men and sit down, if they're godly men, Titus chapter 2, and get advice from them. That helps them, that helps you. Now, tonight, we're talking about how, and I'm so excited about it, because I believe just from one little verse, which is going to take us a while to get there, I think from one little verse, you can discover that you have two pastors. Most of you think you have one pastor. You expect me to be the same in the pew as I am in the pulpit, and I am not. And I'm going to try to help you with that tonight. I'm a totally different person here than I'm there. And I want to see that biblically tonight. And he said, good night. This is going to confuse me. It won't confuse you. Because most people expect the pastor to be the same in private as he is in public. Now, I think, I learned this from my father-in-law. What I preach in this pulpit, I should practice in our palace, our home. But most people make a mistake, and many pastors, I know most of our college students are working tonight, so you're not hearing this. Some are on a work break. You're hearing by internet perhaps. But a pastor, if you think that you're going to pastor outside of the pulpit the same as you do in the pulpit, you're probably in for a real collision. And I want to cover that tonight. And I think with the thought that what we have, your eyes might be open to something tonight. And especially if the Lord tarries and you stay here, it's going to help you a lot understanding something. Before we read our text, let me express some thoughts. I want you to look tonight at how to obtain counsel. And I do want you to understand your pastor. And I want you to understand I have an opinion on everything. How many are like me? You really have an opinion, and maybe some of you don't, but I have an opinion about everything. I have an opinion on cars, on colors. I have an opinion on it's freezing in here, but we're going to leave it alone because only 3 ladies voted for the freezing. I have an opinion on everything. And there's nothing wrong with that. But this may be a shock to you. I rarely give my opinion. I have an opinion, but I rarely give my opinion. Please tonight, and you might want to jot this in a thought, don't confuse counsel with position. Do not confuse counsel with position. You see, in this church, you have a pastor, by the grace of God, for 30 years, I've been trying to make a clear-cut position where I stand in this pulpit. With no apology. I've made a clear-cut direction, position on our direction. You know our direction. There's no question about our direction. There's no question about our philosophy. There's no question about our history. We're old-fashioned, unashamedly old-fashioned. Old-fashioned, we're conservative music. It doesn't mean we don't sing, He touched me, oh, He touched me. Doesn't mean we don't sing that. But we're old-fashioned music. We're old-fashioned convictions. We're old-fashioned standards. We believe in dress standards. We believe in old-fashioned conviction. We have an old-fashioned position. We believe there's only one preserved Bible, the King James Bible. That's what we believe. And in this pulpit, we make it very clear, a woman ought to dress like a woman. A man ought to dress like a man. I don't believe in earrings in men. I don't believe in necklaces on men. I don't believe in a man being a softie. That's my position. And it's clear. But our problem, and by the way, I'm a Baptist. And that's my roots. And that's how this church, when we started it, it said Baptist out front. And when the word church was out front, it was on purpose and it's still there. When fellowships became popular, we took a stand against it. When centers became popular, we took a stand against it. We're not North Valley Center. We're North Valley Baptist Church. North, we're going heavenward. That's where heaven is, north. We're Valley because that's where we're ministering here. We're Baptist because that is our position historically and biblically. And we're a church, a called out assembly. Now, I don't take that same strong position in counsel. The subject of counsel is just contrary to what I said. I'm quiet when it comes to counsel. A lot of you that have been around, you're nodding your head. You know what I'm talking about. And what some people say, I'm not going to talk to him because I know how he is. Or I'm not coming back to your church. I'd never talk to you, but I know how he is. It's about time preachers stood up in the pulpit and told their people what they believed. But if you want counsel, I'm probably not going to give it to you. You have to do your part. And I am not, it's rare if I truly give real counsel. First, because most people don't want it. People will come in and talk to me, and after talking for 5, 10, 15 minutes, I'll say, well, why don't we have a word of prayer about it? And they'll say, thank you for your counsel. I never said a word. And I agree with you, Pastor, what you said. I never said anything. I just listened to you, and there's nothing wrong with that. But don't mistake that. I didn't give you counsel. You'll know when I give you counsel. But I won't give it to you if I don't think you're going to listen. And I'm not going to give it to you if I don't think you're going to follow it. And I'm not going to give it to you if it's going to drive a wedge between us, Proverbs 9, 7 through 9. You see, the Bible says a prudent man is a few words. We saw that a prudent man is one that's mature, trying to bring an immature person to maturity. And so tonight, you have to do your part. What is it? It's found in Proverbs 20. And I want you to turn there tonight to Proverbs 20. And I have a list for you tonight, too, by the way. You won't be able to keep up with it. See, your pastor though he takes a clear-cut stand of what he believes on convictions and standards and holiness and separation and the Bible and the inerrancy of the Bible, though I take a clear, I hide counsel. And I've always hid counsel. Now, I want to give it to you. But I won't give it if I don't think you're going to heed it or if you really don't want it. So you have to do your job of proving to me that you really want it. And by the way, it'd be that way for any person. Your pastor, your parents. Parents can train. Don't confuse training and counseling. Parents can train, but parents ought to be a little bit slow of giving a lot of counsel too. Give a lot of training. Give direction. But when your students are asking you, your children are asking you, you want to hear them out. So here's your job if you really want counsel. Proverbs 20, verse 5. Counsel in the heart of man is like what, class? Deep water. It's down in a well is what it is. Deep water. Counsel, advice, direction, counsel, advice. It's down in a deep well. But a man of understanding will, what, class? Draw it out. I have counsel in my heart. It's in there. Now, you may not want it. And I'm not saying you have to have it. And I hope it's not sounding proud. Because I'm not the only one that can give counsel. But if you want it, you're going to have to draw it out. I'm not going to give it to you at surface. You're not just coming to a well and dipping down an inch and getting some water. You're going to have to dig for it. You're going to have to want it. And it's down in my heart. How did that well get filled with counsel in my heart? And I have counsel I can give you. How did it get there? One, by observation. I got it in the well of my soul, in my heart, by observation. I've watched parenting. I've been involved in parenting. I've already formed a conviction and a philosophy on what you're trying to do. I know what I believe about parenting. It's in the well of my soul. Now, if you want it, draw it out. But if you don't want it, I don't boss you around about your kids. I've got a lot of things down there in my heart, and I preach in the pulpit, and you, bless God. Nobody has a misunderstanding when I think about cell phones in this church. Now, I'm thankful for cell phones, and I'm thankful that even teenagers have them to get a hold of mother and dad, but that's where it stops. I don't believe in cell phones for talking to brothers, to friends and friends. That's why we check them into the school, and don't even bring them to school. We check them in the morning. And you have to get them at the end of the day. And if you need to get a hold of your kids, call the phone here. Teenagers are destroying their lives with that cell phone. And I know what I'm talking about because I talk to preachers every day of my life. So I have a great opinion and advice and counsel on cell phones. And I'm going to let it be known. But if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But I have learned by observation. How did it get there? It's in my heart. I've been watching it. I've been watching parenting for years. I watched when I was a young boy at a family in our church. I watched them always have a problem with their kids over everything in the church. And their kids were always right, and the pastor and his wife were always wrong. And anybody that worked with teenagers was always wrong. And all those kids had disastrous ends. And maybe they're watching those that are still alive by the internet tonight. And no one knows, but maybe them and I don't even know if they would know how I'm talking. But I always watched them combative with authority and combative with the pastor and combative with the pastor wife. It was always an issue. I've watched it. Before I was a teenager, I watched this. And then as a teenager. And then in college. And then a young pastor. And now 30 years, the same pulpit. Guess what? I've watched some things. Brother Evans is about my age, about the same age as Chairman of our deacons. He's watched some things. By observing, he has observed some things that he knows that you don't know. His wife has observed some things that you don't know. It's in the well of my soul. If you want it, I'll give it to you, but you're going to have to want it. I'm building something with you tonight. I got there. It got there by observation. It got there by experience. This counsel that I have in my heart it got there by experience. Laban in Genesis chapter 30, verse 27, said of Jacob, his son-in-law, I have learned by experience that God hath prospered me because of thee. There's some things that you're not going to ever learn until you experience them. I've been down this road, and Brother Van Dyke could give you so much wisdom in so many areas, but he's learned by experience. I think it'd be permissible. I have permission to say your age. Brother Van Dyke is 69, if I'm not mistaken. He's learned 69, 68, 75, 104. Your wife said you were 69. Are you 69? Yeah, I thought so. Jackie Van Dyke's a liar. You tell your wife back there. She said you're older than that too, 67. I didn't realize your wife was that much older than you. It's amazing I have any church members left in this church. It's just amazing. Brother Van Dyke is 67. I'm going to tell you something. He and his wife, they have some experience because of longevity of life, and they're not old. But 67 is more than 16. And so they have experience in the well of their soul. Some of you would be so wise to draw it out. Oh, hey, Brother Van Dyke, in passing, what do you think? You're not drawing anything. You're looking probably for someone to just put a stamp of approval on what you've already done. Thirdly, I'm using myself, but all these that give counsel, how to get in the well of our heart? By observation, by experience, by instruction. I was taught by my pastors. My pastor growing up, and my pastor in Bible college, and my pastor that I worked for, Brother Swanson. I was taught by Pastor Smith, Pastor Sanders, Pastor Swanson. I was taught. I was taught by my parents, who celebrated 58 years of marriage on Monday. I was taught by them. I was taught by my college president, Dr. Cedarholm. I was instructed by professors. I was instructed by preachers. And you get this instruction and instruction and instruction. You have something in your heart. I have something in my heart because of instruction that I did not have there when I was 16. I have something in the well of my heart, not only from instruction and experience and observation, but I also got this down in my well of my heart through position. And that's an important one. I want you to write it down. I've already made up my mind what I believe. I know what I believe. There's very few areas that I don't have a position on already. I know what I believe. I've been giving you these things that I believe. For example, I believe, I won't give, I've already given you 70-something. I've told you I believe never to pay for an automobile with a second loan. If you came to me and said, I really think I want to get a second of my house for a car, I'd tell you no. But if you say, I'm going to do that, and if you want me to, I'll agree with you. I'm not going to take the stand in my office and the fight in my office like I'll take in this pulpit. You're going to have to want to get it out of my heart. I have made mention that I don't believe you ought to ever live in a state university dorm. I've made mention that I believe the wife should always determine the number of children. I never give advice on birth control. I never advise the young people to join the military. And I'm Mr. Patriotic. And I love every branch of the military, but I went through that. I never advise you to have your children sit with you in Sunday school. Send them to their Sunday school classes. You see, we've gone through these. I never advise you to repeatedly use your children as your babysitters. Now, I know there's a time they can pitch in and do something, but I don't think your children were born in your home to become a professional babysitter or errand runner. I don't believe that you ever, I've already made up my mind. Say, what do you think? I've got my mind made up. I don't believe teenagers should ever be dropped off at the mall or an amusement park by themselves. I figured that one out 30 years ago. That's not, what do you think? Hey, it's done. You say, well, I really don't. Well, then go send them to the mall. And we're not going to break fellowship over the fact that you feel like you can send your kids to the mall and I don't. But I'm still going to take a position in this church. But if you don't want to support my counsel, I'm not going to have World War III over it. I don't believe you ought to ever just drop your kids off at a sporting event. I don't believe that. I believe those kids are in your protective custody. And you always ought to have them in view and see what's going on and know who their friends are and watch. I'm not talking about treating them like the Gestapo either. Let me give you a few tonight. This is what I believe. And I'll give you a few things here tonight. I never give medical advice. Brother and Mrs. Strofe have a little baby with chemotherapy and radiation starting. He'll be 2 years of age on February the 5th. I would never think about giving them advice. I would never think about giving them medical advice. That's out of my field. I don't have any. I've already. I know we have Dr. Duncan here, Dr. Music here, and Dr. Kellogg here tonight. And these, they know. I don't know. And if that young couple wants to talk to them, go to it. But don't ask me, should we do chemo or not? I don't give medical advice. Should I do the surgery? I don't know if you should do surgery. I'm not a doctor. I have an opinion about all that business. I have an opinion if I get cancer, what I'm going to do. Now, a lot of times when you get things, it's amazing how they can change, but I believe I've already made the decision of what I would do with cancer. I never write a letter that I don't want published. I've never told a preacher off or let him know, well, positionally, here's where I stand, and you don't like. I never write anything I don't want published. Here's another thought. I don't give advice. I said this. I never give advice on investments. At least that is positive. Sometimes I will give a negative advice. Ooh, I don't know if I'd go there. Number next, Mrs. Trieber never allowed our babies to be put to sleep crying, put to bed crying. She never believed in that. I never believe in charging Christmas. I don't believe you ought to charge Christmas. I don't recommend to get a woman to get a job until the man gets a second job first. And the second job he gets should be preferably, and I've done this for years, early in the morning, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, so that when he gets home at night, he still, after the second job, can be with his family. And I think it'd be better for a man to have a job and a half than a man to have a job and a lady to have a job. Now, you say, I don't want to hear that. Then I won't impose it on you. This is just my advice. Hey, this is not the Baptist position tonight. Don't expect me to be the same in my office as I am in here. We're talking about two different ideas. Now, some crosses over, yes. I always recommend that every person vote every election. I recommend and always advise never to put anything on top of a Bible and put the Bible on the floor. If I see a Bible and something on the Bible and no one's watching, and something on top of the Bible, I'll always take what's on top of the Bible and move it to the bottom. If it's yours and you're sitting there and you're with it, I won't bother it. And I won't say, take that. But that's my advice. That's my counsel. I recommend, listen to this, and I do. I recommend the entire family to attend the same Bible college. Now you're here, your brother or sister, some other one, stay here now that you're rooted. A pastor called me, and he said, my daughter wants to come to your college. And I said, I'm going to write her a letter, Pastor, but I'm recommending she doesn't come. Your other children have gone to such and such Baptist Bible College. Can you imagine Thanksgiving when they're older? And when they're sharing memories of the dorm life and friends and students, and this one is going to be ostracized because this one here does. Did I want the student? Yes! Would have it been good to have that pastor on our recommendation list? Yes! But it was better for his family to keep his kids all in the same school. At least that's I have an opinion on everything. I believe in dividing responsibilities in the home. Mrs. Trieber has always taken the inside, and I give no opinions. I've taken the outside. I've always determined the flowers we plant and how I care for that yards and everything on the outside. She's always done the inside. If she wants a pink bedroom, I would not like it. But I would never tell her. Other than right now in the pulpit. I don't have to worry about that. Next, if divorced, never badmouth your ex to your children. Next, never recommend a non-Baptist Bible college. That is my counsel. I will never recommend a non-Baptist Bible college. But by the way, if you recommend that for your kids, I'll support you. Next, Sunday is not the Sabbath. We have Sabbath day worship people around. We're not Sabbath day worship. And read your Bible. I never advise a high school student to date. But I've never gone between and tried to break up a boy and girl. That only drives them to one another. But I don't advise it. I advise that mothers should be creative with breakfast. For example, we required our children to eat breakfast. I'd come to the office early. I'd always go home by about 7. I'd make breakfast. I can make cream of wheat. I can make oatmeal. I can make French toast. I can make pancakes. We never had those fried things because I didn't like the smell in the house. Picky, and all that. But I can make scrambled eggs. I can make omelets. It's been years since I've done that, but I can do those things. And I made it. And I made the toast. And they had breakfast. But we discovered something. Surprise, surprise. Teenagers don't like to eat breakfast. But Mrs. Trieber did not believe our children should leave their home without breakfast. So what'd she do? She bought fruit and made them smoothies. And there's many, many, many times our girls would be putting on the war paint, the DAP and everything else you ladies use. And she'd walk into the room and give them a smoothie, not from Jamba Juice, but something that she made to get some nourishment in their body. See, I'm a teenager. I don't like eating. You need to eat. And a fast drink at Starbucks is not eating. Next, I never debate the Bible. I've been invited to debates. I've been challenged to debates. I never debate the Bible. I state my position, but I'm not going to debate the Bible. I recommend a woman to have a checking account. A personal checking account. Women, by the way, hold it. I believe in a family checking account. My name's on our checking account. My wife's name's on our checking account. She has not seen that checking account. I probably used that checking account in a decade. I don't think that's a good way to have an argument. Both of you operating out of the same checking account. But it is our checking account. It's our, because when we became one, we got married, the two became one. It is our checking account. I die, she doesn't have to transfer it. It's our money. But she also has her own personal checking account. Because women outlive men in this country between 4 and 5 years. And one day she's going to be writing checks if she outlives me. And I don't want her to be a widow who has no idea what's going on and how to take care of finances. We do a little bit different now, but for 20 years, she determined how much grocery money she needs, how much she needs on a weekly basis for gifts and this and that. And every Monday morning, I'd write a check to her account. We never argued. I can remember the early days. She'd go to the grocery store and come home, and there was never enough groceries. Fellas, you know what I'm talking about? I'd go with her, and we'd spend more money. And then sometimes she'd take the checkbook, and I knew we had $30 left, and she'd spend all $30 on the groceries. And it was not amen, it was World War III. We never have argued over groceries in years because she told me how much she needed, and I put it in her account every week. That was my job. I recommend a weekly budget for your wife for food and personal items. I recommend, if your family is young and you're trying to choose a vacation between Disneyland and Hawaii, go to Disneyland. Think of where your kids would want to go, not where you want to go. I recommend that everybody always wears a seatbelt. I recommend that men always wear dignified ties. I recommend that you always have a family meal at a table and not in front of the TV. I recommend that little boys must have a great amount of time with their dad and not only with mommy. I recommend that if the lady is going to buy the clothes for the boy, she ought to buy clothes through the eyes of a man. Because a woman dresses her boy like real cutesy. He's so cute. Boys ought not to look cutesy. Boys ought to look like boys. And a woman, ladies, you're great, but you will dress them like a sissy. You have to dress your boy through the eyes of a man. Well, that was a fun one. A woman will see little Winnie the Pooh and it looks so cute on him. Next, we never, and you ask our grown kids, we never criticized a preacher in our home. And we never criticized church members in our home. Isn't it amazing? Our kids all want, now they're on their own, and they've all chosen they want to be in church and serve the Lord. But they haven't heard, the ministry, these people. We have never attacked fundamentalism. And I've never done it in this pulpit. All this fighting that we've got amongst fundamentalists. No, I don't know about it. And I'm not going down, if I say such and such, the brethren will write against me. Where do you get that nonsense? We're not part of that stuff. I'm all good. Now, I've got several more pages. We better stop here. We have never made the lack of money an excuse of why we did not do something, though a lack of money may have been the reason. Mr. Tabor has taught in our house that all of us are responsible to take our soiled clothing to the laundry room. And she makes us separate it. by colors. The whites, the darks, the shirts, the towels. You say, wow. Yes, that's right. There's nothing wrong with that. We've always told our children stories of our lives, our parents' lives, our church, and our family. We want them to know their roots. Mrs. Trieber never left the dishes in the sink at night, and she still doesn't to this night. The next morning you get up, and the house is it's clean, and the dishes are away. We never have a big party and just leave it to the morning. Have you ever cleaned dirty dishes the next morning? It's terrible. I was responsible for playing Christian music while the kids grew up in the early morning at the house. I'm a man, and I put the foot down on this one. I have never allowed Christmas music in our house until after missions conference. That's in October. These girls that we had and my wife, they start playing Christmas, and so I just have to obey what they had to say. I'm going to stop in just a moment. Mrs. Trieber believes in doing the laundry every day. And immediately when it's done, she folds it. Number next, we don't store junk. I have an opinion what your garage should look like. I think the garage was made for, if you have a 2-car garage, you're not going to believe this, 2 cars. I know it's a novel idea. If you have a 1-car garage, it ought to store a car. I don't think the car ought to stay out. You say, you mean you're going to divide a church over that? No, do what you want. Pile it sky high. But I'm saying tonight, a lot of you are trying to figure out, I wonder what I believe. Figure out what you believe. I told you last week, I believe the car ought to be washed for Sunday. I believe the lawns ought to be cut for Sunday. I believe the sidewalks ought to be swept for Sunday. I'm talking about your home and the church and the whole 9 yards. I'll tell you next week, because we're going to wrap this up. I still got about 40 more things to give you. I believe, I have a certain philosophy how long you ought to call on a bus route, especially if you have a family. But you know how many, and I'll tell you next week, you know how many more people, you know how much larger our church could be? I know. I think we ought to figure out what we believe. You see, in a wise lady, Titus 2, and in a wise man, and in a wise parent, and in a wise pastor, and as we saw last week, in a godly person, there's a well. And that well is filled with a lot of good counsel. It got there by instruction. It got there by observation. It got there by experience. It got there by position. This is what I believe. Now you take your thimble or a cup or a bucket and let it down in the well of a wise person's soul and draw it out. But you folks that are asked for the advice, make sure they really want it. And make sure they're really trying to draw it out of you. Just because someone asks you a question doesn't mean they want the answer. I hope tonight, as we look at this thought, I hope you'll let me still take a position of what I believe in this pulpit. But I hope you understand that you come to my office and it's not, all right, sit down. I want to tell you. I hope, and I believe this is true, I don't think I've ever treated a member that way. I don't plan to start it. I'll call, hey, young people, I'll say, and I don't do this very often. Sit up and listen. Come on now. That's where it ends right there. I can shake their hand afterward. Don't expect your parents to always have to be the exact same. Sometimes they have to be a parent. Sometimes they need to be your counselor and counsel you. Parenting is training. Counseling is giving advice. They cross over sometime. Let your parents take a strong position. Let your pastor take a strong position. But if you really want advice, you draw it out. I close. We tried to train our kids to make decisions on college. I never required them to come here. I had advice, and I think they wanted it, but I don't feel like I was a good source. They had to find a better source than me. I was too close to the issue. But I think students are not wise enough to make the decision on their own, generally speaking. They need someone to guide them. I think here's a pastor. I'm not talking. He can give his daughter advice about college, but it's a different situation because the college here for me. And I told our kids, you can go talk to brother so-and-so or brother so-and-so. Or here are 2 other schools maybe I'd recommend. Get advice, but draw it out. Someone could really help you. Our heads are bowed and our eyes are closed. I just caught Dr. Kellogg's eye, and I saw Mrs. Duncan, Dr. Duncan earlier, and Dr. Music back there. We're foolish not to go to them for advice. They say, I don't want to speak to a church member. Then speak to another doctor. But all your self-diagnosis, that could be dangerous. Ask these doctors. And Mr. and Mrs. Know-It-All. Let's stand together, please. We're out of time. Let's have you come forward. If God's speaking in your heart about something about the service or a need you're carrying, or you want to get saved tonight, or I want to be baptized tonight, come right now. Will you come? Our Father, I want my people to live a happy, wonderful, peaceful life. And so I want to help them. I want to help them with good counsel, good advice. But I want them to, we said, I think the word last week, have a good network of godly, aged people, godly deacons, godly Sunday school teachers and school teachers, and the pastors here and the ladies and wise women and wise men. What a privilege we have. And so many of them, as they give advice, and all of them, I believe, go to the great counselor, whose name is Counselor, the mighty God, the everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. I pray that as we close out this 4-week series next Wednesday, that these lessons would have been a help. May every mom and dad sit down and perhaps in the quietness of an evening or a late night, consider what they believe. And lovingly take that position. And so that when their children come for advice, they don't have to think it up every time. What do I believe on this? It's already settled. It's already in their heart. They've been raising their children with that advice. I thank you for the wonderful people you have sent my way and are sending my way to teach me and have taught me. And I pray that we'd all be always willing to be instructed. In Jesus' name, our heads are bowed and our eyes are closed. And when you're done here at the altar, you can go back. Father, bless these wonderful people in our brief meeting now together. In Jesus' name, amen. Please be seated just for a moment out in the lobby and here in the auditorium. We have about a 5-minute business. I'm 5 minutes over already, and about a 5-minute business meeting. Who's ever baptizing, when you're ready, just come in and I'll take note of that. Let me explain baptism. We believe Jesus died on the cross, was buried, and he rose again. And when people get saved, they get baptized and identify with Christ in the New Testament local church. Tonight we have two